But we have the same problems as every other community. So we did our community energy and emissions plan, and the chart that you see up there probably looks pretty similar to the kind of chart that most of you guys have, where about a third of our greenhouse gas emissions come from buildings, and the other 2/3 from transportation. There's a tiny little bit from waste, relatively small for us. And like all of you, we said, you know, okay, we have to sort of put our greenhouse gas emissions targets into our official community plan. So, yeah, we're going to adopt the provincial, we're going to do the 33% by 2020, and so on and so forth. And then we had one of those aha moments. Do you remember I said we were a growing community? So even if every new building that we bring into our community is as energy efficient as we can possibly make it, every new building we bring into our community increases our carbon footprint. Oops, that's sending us in the wrong direction. So what we actually have to do is reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% per capita by 2020, which is, and time is moving fast. So that becomes a real challenge. So how the heck do you get there? We focused on the building side of the equation, and I can explain why later if anybody's interested, and recognize that there's a real opportunity. Back to that map, lots of single-family homes all through Colwood. Built in the 60s, built in the 70s, built in the 80s, most of them not particularly energy efficient. Huge potential for greenhouse gas emission reduction through energy retrofits. But how do you get 6,000 individual homeowners to take action and do something about it? So here are your skill testing questions. I'm really hoping you're all going to pass the first one. How many of you live in a home, either owned or rented? I'm kind of, keep your hands up, but I'm kind of going to assume it's 100%. Okay. How many of you think, keep your hand up if you think climate change is important? Keep your hand up if you like having lower energy bills than you did the last month. Okay? You're really doing well so far. How many of you have heard about solar hot water? How many of you installed it in your home? John, you win. Actually, I do too. So this was actually the question that got Solar Colwood started, because like you, I answered yes to the first 4 questions and no to the last one. And so it kind of started this conversation, you know, we're talking about energy, so it started this conversation about, okay, so I admit it, I'm a geek, I love this stuff, I believe in climate change, I think it's important, I think we all should do something about it. So if you can't, and I knew there were grants available to do it, so if you can't persuade somebody like me to do it, how the heck are you going to persuade my neighbors to do it? How do you persuade 6,000 people to change their minds? How do you get towards whole community change? And the really important thought here is whole community change. All of us, all of your communities have done some amazing work. There's, you know, terrific kind of examples of what can be done all over the place. How do we take it out of that kind of bleeding edge, and how do we get this kind of stuff into the mainstream? That was the challenge that we faced. So what I want to do in this presentation is take you through a little bit of a journey in terms of where we're at with the Solar Colwood project, what we're trying to do, so that perfect dive, you know, what is that ideal that we're trying to make happen there? You know, what's the parachute? What was some of the sort of thinking that went in behind it into that risk assessment? What are the updrafts or the support structures that are out there? What are the side winds, the challenges that we knew we were going to face, and yes, we're facing them. What are some of the air pockets, the things that kind of we just didn't see coming? What are the mid-course corrections that we're making? And how do we kind of hopefully make a safe landing or a good splash at the end? So planning the perfect dive. This is what we're trying to do out of this Solar Colwood program. We're trying to do a demonstration of whole community change towards energy conservation and renewable clean energy. So simple. We were helped a little bit. We got a grant of almost $4 million out of the Federal Clean Energy Fund. And I have to tell a funny story on that one too. The Federal Clean Energy Fund is all about funding leading edge technology, you know, the kind of the latest, the greatest, the new gizmo, the new big bioenergy plant, whatever. And we came along and said, actually, we want to do something using really old technology, because solar hot water has been around for a long time. We want to do it, but you know, there's no point in having all this wonderful technology unless people are using it. How do we get it out there in the community? And so we put in our application and waited, and they came back and said, sorry, you got denied. And then it was actually a year before we got fully funded to do this. So, you know, we actually, what we set out to do as a 4-year program became a 3-year program, and we're about just over a year into it now. But certainly having that funding has made a huge difference in our ability to be able to do this. We've said we've got 3 basic, simple goals, and it's about the win-win-win, and you kind of have to have all of those pieces in there together. So the first win, I call happy homeowners. Doesn't matter whether you're a senior living on a fixed income or you're a young family, getting those energy bills down is a win. We all know costs are going up. How do we kind of help people bring those energy costs under control? That's part of our affordable communities. The second win is around the job creation. One of the nice things about a lot of the kind of technologies that we're talking about, the solar hot water, the ductless split heat pumps that I'll talk about in a minute, is it's all about local jobs. It's not about, you know, paying somebody in the Alberta oil fields or paying somebody who's bringing in natural gas from a long way away, or even somebody who's building Site C from a long way away. It's all about local jobs. You need local people. And when we started this program was right at that economic downturn time where we had lots of folks in the construction industry who were out of work, and part of our thinking was how do we get them back into the workforce? How do we do jobs and skills development? So that was the second win. The third win, and I was really hoping Ian was going to hold up his baby at this point in time, but the third win, of course, is future generations and the future of this planet. How do we get greenhouse gas emissions under control? And clearly, what one little community does ain't going to change the whole world, but if all of us do it, we can make that difference together. So, what we set out to do, a number of different pieces of the program. We said, okay, you know, we need to show leadership as a municipality. So one of the things that we set out to do was to put solar on our fire hall. And what we've actually done, okay, I'm going to stop for a minute. Is everybody really clear about the difference between solar thermal, or solar hot water, and solar PV, or solar photovoltaic? So solar thermal, solar hot water, heats your hot water. Solar PV, or solar photovoltaic, generates electricity. We have put both on the fire hall roof. So these are 2 solar hot water panels, and this is a bank of, it's actually missing one because it's just an installation, a bank of 12 PV panels. So we decided to demonstrate both technologies at the fire hall, partly to bring our own bills down, but also partly because this is sort of an important part of, the fire station is where a lot of kind of, you know, we get a lot of school groups coming through, so it was a good demonstration site, a place where we can talk about, you know, the difference between the 2 technologies, because often there's confusion in there. And besides, the fire chief really loves having this stuff on his roof. So we like to keep our fire chief happy. So we also have, I don't have them up there, but we also, it became operational about a month ago. So we now sort of have some quite nice charts starting to develop in terms of how much we've saved in terms of emissions already from the 2 installations. And obviously the emission savings in this case are actually much greater from the 2 solar hot water panels because they're displacing natural gas, whereas the PV panels are displacing electricity, which has a much lower greenhouse gas footprint. So anyway, so that's one of the pieces that we set out to do. Hooray, we've done it. Good, move on to the next one. This is one that's up and coming. Some of you may be familiar with the Colwood Corners shopping mall. It doesn't look like that right now. The folks who are laughing because what it does look like is a very tired old 60s shopping mall. We've got them all over the place, but it's definitely in need of a little reinvention. But with this one, right now, this looks like a big hole in the ground, and there's lots of work happening. But what's going in there? There's a big London Drugs going in underneath. This is sort of office complex at the front, residential at the back, and then this is a tall residential tower in behind. We're working with the developer on a number of different sort of green aspects of this development, if you want. One of the things that they're looking at is district energy, perhaps tapping into the sewer pipe that runs by, which of course has lots of nice hot water in it, and it's a very useful piece to kind of pull some heat energy from. We're working with them obviously in terms of things like energy efficient buildings, energy efficient appliances. We're also working with them on solar thermal, solar photovoltaics, and something called smart homes, which I'll also touch on in a minute. So we decided that, you know, although the focus was on retrofits, it was important to do the municipal piece. It was important to be sort of showcasing some of this stuff with our developers as well. We set ourselves a target, an ambitious target, of 1,000 home retrofits. Go back to the piece where I said we're only a 6,000 home community. This is a significant number that we're trying to achieve. What we do is, all of you guys as homeowners, we say, start with an energy assessment of your home. That gets you that very individualized picture of what it is that you should do in your home that makes good economic sense to do. So you might have to do a little bit of weather stripping and caulking in your home. You might have to put in some insulation in your attic. You might be looking at putting in new windows. It's different. And then what we're saying is, so think about that, do all of that, and also think about the possibility of some of the other technologies that are out there, such as the solar hot water.